Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14 of Ask Dr. Testosterone, starring Dr. George Touliatos. Dr. Touliatos is the author of Bodybuilding, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He is also a monthly columnist at musculardevelopment.com, contributor to many books and publications, including William Llewellyn's Anabolics. You can check out more information about Dr. George at his website and get that book at gtoul.com. And now, joining us from Athens, Greece, Dr. George Touliatos. How are you, sir?
Hello, Ron.
Good.
Glad to be back. I'm looking forward to do a show with Dr. O also.
Yes.
And you.
You guys got to coordinate. You guys are busy doctors. I'll be available whenever you two can get your schedules together, because we've talked to. We've talked individually about like prevention measures and trying to stay healthy and blood markers and different things like that. But I think it really is important, especially now in the wake of, we just lost Matt Porter a little over a week ago, at a very young age. So a show where you guys can really talk about, all the things we as bodybuilders need to be doing. And if our doctors won't work with us, maybe
we can have a Q&A interview. Let's be straight and answer the questions we have from our fans and our patients and our clients. And instead of talking, because sometimes this becomes tiring to people and us.
Okay, well, if they're sending in the questions, I don't think they're tired because they want the answers. So
yes.
Let's start with this week's questions from your viewers. First one is, my question, sir, is it necessary to take aspirin with a course? I guess he means with a steroid cycle. Is there any problem I stopped aspirin suddenly? Please answer me.
Yes, aspirin or salicylic acid is necessary as anti-clotting for anti-clotting purposes, because we know that steroids elevate hematocrit and hemoglobin at increased viscosity. And on the other hand, they tend to elevate fibrinogen, which is a clotting factor that also makes it responsible for clotting. Now, you can use aspirin to deactivate the platelets, but not minimize their absolute number. The good scenario is to have low platelets with high hemoglobin. Otherwise, when you have already high platelets or called thrombocytes, then you have the polycythemia. But when platelets are kept down, then you just have erythrocytosis, which is manageable, and this is the case where you minimize the clotting and the thrombotic effects. Now, aspirin can be used from people that do not have the so-called G6PD intolerant enzymatic deficiency. Otherwise, you can substitute aspirin with fish oil, DHA or an EPA, the omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, because they work through the same mechanism by inhibition of prostaglandins. These are some inflammatory cytokines that are responsible for platelet aggregation. However, the flip side of the coin is that if you use aspirin or too much of fish oil, you may minimize the muscle inflammation that William Llewellyn supports through the arachidonic acid. Therefore, if you want to use aspirin, use it preferably with breakfast, or you can use it as an ECA stack with empty stomach morning cardio, and do not use it post-workout where you're gonna mess up with the supposed muscle inflammation. And people are using aspirin if they are sore and to minimize, soreness. But actually, this soreness that will lead to the muscle inflammation, and afterwards with recovery and supplementation and food, nutrition, to muscle growth. Therefore, do not sabotage muscle inflammation by using aspirin post-workout, but far apart from the workout timing.
Now, if you're using steroids, is that still a consideration? Do you still need to be concerned with keeping that inflammation effect?
Steroids elevate erythrocytosis and red blood cell production mechanism. Therefore, it's a must to enter. If you enter a cycle and already your hemoglobin is above 17 or your hematocrit above 50, because if you start like this cycle, it's going to reach 54 to 55 for sure.
Wow. And, we just did a show with Dr. Tom about clomiphene. And there's a risk
also. Yes.
So there's a risk with clotting of that. People get that deep vein thrombosis. So,
yes, because half part of Clomid is estrogenic and the other half is antiestrogenic. But I want to mention that use it with caution, aspirin in a well-fed state, otherwise on an empty stomach is going to kill you. Some people are not so sensitive. Yes, it's they cause gastric bleeding mucosa.
wow.
Gastric mucosa bleeding, yes. And you may have a bleeding diarrhea also.
Oh my God. Okay. So
This happens in a higher milligram dose, half a gram. But the baby aspirin film coated,
yeah.
it's more safe, 80 or 100 milligrams.
But regardless, have it with a meal. Do not have aspirin on empty stomach. Okay. Good to know.
It's NSAID drug, non-steroid anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. Next question. Can I take Berberin in replacement of Metformin? Will it be able to control blood glucose levels just as beneficial as Metformin? I also heard it doesn't mess with IGF-1 levels like Metformin. Thanks, Dr. Testosterone. I love your content. Berberin.
Yes, this is true. That Berberin can be an alternative scenario for Metformin. Metformin is responsible for lowering insulin resistance. It's a hypoglycemic drug, but without interfering the insulin response from the pancreas. It inhibits gluconeogenesis and also makes more sensitive the glucose receptors to the cells. Now, Metformin, however, it stimulates AMPK, which is the protein of longevity, because it mimics the fasting conditions. However, on the other hand, it will inhibit mTOR and IGF-1. Therefore, it's supposed to hinder the gains out of growth hormone when you use it. That's why I suggest not to use simultaneously growth hormone with Metformin, but after you cease the growth hormone use Metformin in order to lower the insulin resistance that growth hormone leads to. So Berberin is not a drug like Metformin, and it has not these side effects to mTOR and IGF-1. It was something that I discussed it almost 1 year ago. And yes, you can combine it with chromium picolinate and vanadyl sulfate as other supplements in order to improve your insulin sensitivity. Of course, high fiber diet, low sugar diet, okay? And the more muscle you have, the more insulin sensitivity you have. The less of mental health you have, the better insulin sensitivity also you have.
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned that it's Metformin is not supposed to be taken with growth hormone.
Not alongside, because it will stop your IGF-1 to elevate, and your mTOR. mTOR is the biochemical pathway of muscle growth, the rapamycin. Yeah. And okay, this is in papers, but sometimes going by the book tells you half of the truth.
Sure.
And you should, of course.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned take Metformin when you're not using growth hormone, but everyone I know that uses growth hormone is always on growth hormone. Like they're going to be on it every day for the rest of their life.
Well, the point is, can they afford it? Can they afford it?
Yes. I don't know how people afford it, honestly. I really don't. I mean,
and also you have to measure your A1C glycated hemoglobin. So insulin resistance starts from 5.5 upwards towards to 6. Now, if you have 5.1, 5.2, there's no reason to use Metformin. There are people who use Metformin for age management, in order to inhibit the glycosation process of all the proteins inside the body. But it does not help if you use Metformin and you eat carbs.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Next one. Thank you for addressing my questions on this episode, Ron and Doc T. Wealth of knowledge. Question is, I've been using Berberine extract. Here we go again. Berberine extract 500 milligram with chromium polynicotinate and cinnamon extract with milk thistle to increase their absorption. Number one, is it true that Berberine at 500 milligrams post-carb meal 2 to 3 times per day is effective in better channeling the glucose into muscle cells rather than fat cells? Want to take these one at a time because he's got 1, 2. Okay, well, the second question is, number 2, Berberine being an AMPK activator, does taking it after heavy weight sessions with high carbs stunt mTOR, which will defeat the goal of muscle growth? If yes, please suggest best timing to take Berberine and dosage for max glucose channeling without impacting muscle growth.
Yes, this is a good question. Actually, it's a tricky one. because in the previous one we said that you should use Berberin instead of Metformin alongside with growth hormone. And now you can use it also post-workout in order to elevate and to improve your insulin sensitivity. That is already high post-workout because you are in a fasted state, okay? Yeah. And the muscles are thirsty and want to suck the nutrients. Yes, on the other hand, it is supposed Berberin to lower IGF-1 and mTOR and improve MMPK. However, I just answered the previous question that this takes place and happens with Metformin and not with Berberin. Okay, this is the benefit of the supplement, that they do not have the side effects of the drugs. Therefore, Metformin is capable of improving MMPK and lowering IGF-1 and mTOR, but on the other hand, I believe that Berberin does not have this problem. I just said it before, and it's good to use it instead of Metformin for insulin resistance. Now, people that do not care about their muscle growth, are ordinary or sedentary people that train. They use it because Metformin lowers B12 cobalamin and also has GI tract disturbances, diarrhea and bloating and farting. So yes, you can use it with breakfast, because breakfast also the insulin sensitivity is high. So the two times we're using insulin, it's breakfast and post-workout when insulin sensitivity is already high. And according to Jay Cutler, breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Well, a lot of people say that.
Even sedentary people say that, because you need to break this fasting and you need to fill up with energy for the rest of the day. And also the metabolism is supposed to be high in the morning so you can utilize your food stuff. But also pre, intra, and post-workout are also very important, the supplementation you use.
Okay. So it sounds to me like Berberine should just be used in place of Metformin in pretty much every situation.
Yes, I don't have Berberine in Greece. I use Metformin, and I use it when I stop. For instance, last week I was offered a pen of growth hormone, and I used it.
Yeah, you're better friends than me, I'll tell you that. Hey, have some growth.
I just finished it, so I used 5 IUs for 1 week, 35 units, and now I'm going to start Metformin. The point is, if I have any insulin resistance, it's going to be shown in 3 months, because the glycemic hemoglobin shows the lifespan of the red blood cell, which is 90 days. So if I took something today, I'm going to find out in 3 months if I have any damage.
Okay.
The insulin resistance, okay, because of the A1C, because it has a window for 3 months ahead.
I thought you were looking bigger last week, doctor. I thought you were looking. I said I thought you were looking bigger last week. Now I know.
No, I think my jawline is larger now.
Hey, you got leaner. It's getting all chiseled looking. Okay. Here's a good one. SARMs. People still want to talk about SARMs. Doc, I'm interested to hear if you have experience using Cardarine SARM, or have seen patients using it on a longer term. Is it true it favors HDL and reduces LDL significantly? It creates a good lipid profile balance. Lots of bro science out there about Cardarine, so hearing the doc's opinion would be awesome and more medically sound. Is that true? Yes,
it's true as a matter of fact, and William Lewling mentions that it's a reduction about 20% in LDL and an elevation in 10% in HDL.
Wow.
And also a patient of mine used it, and he noticed that his HDL climbed up to 40. He was a former steroid user. But also, I think GW it's called also, the Cardarine.
Okay.
It's a SARM that, of course, supports muscle growth, but also, yes, it is alternative used for a lipidemic profile and atherosclerotic index improvement. But also for HDL, you can use niacin, and for LDL, you can use red rice yeast and other agents we mentioned previous times. I wanna give a try on this and see if I'm gonna have an improvement. But I will not put my money on SARMs for muscle growth.
Really?
They do have. First of all, I'm not sure about the origin. Second of all, they have distortions in liver and lipids, and people claim that they cost in HPTA reduction.
Right.
Therefore, they're harmless because they're supposed to work selectively in androgen receptors.
Right.
For instance, scalp and prostate. But if you need the PCT afterwards, then what's the benefit?
I mean,
they work just like
O'Connor has said many times, he's got patients coming in all the time that have terrible lipid profiles and their HPTA shut down from SARMs.
Yes, and I wonder, because I'm skeptical and I'm suspicious, and I think with prejudice, that can SARMs be faked by 17-alkylated AAS pills? Of course they can.
Of course.
Everybody can make a powder and put it in a capsule and sell it as a SARM. Yeah. Because they are supposed to sell in a supplement store and not in a pharmacy store that they are legitimate origin stuff.
Right. I mean, and they're I don't know if you've looked into the prices, but they're fairly expensive to the point where you could probably get some Dianabol powder or, you know, even cheaper like methyl test powder, something, and you could sell that much.
They are banned from IOC and WADA USADA, but they are sold legally in supplement stores.
Yeah, the U.S. has cracked down on them. Like, I think most SARMs in the U.S. you can't get them now. You have to get them through Canada or somewhere else. But I don't, you know, because we had a Congress introduced an act about almost over a year ago now, to ban them, to ban their sales. So, not many places you can get them here. If you can get them here, it's pretty shady. But people still getting them, so it can't be that hard. Here we go.
They used to be freely.
Oh yeah, they used to be on the counter and on the shelves, and you can't get them that way anymore. No supplement store would ever have them out for display anymore.
And pro-hormones also, right?
Yeah, I mean those are all gone. Those are long gone. But
DHEA is sold freely.
You can still find, if you really know how to look, it seems like you can still find just about everything online somewhere. Someone's selling it that's, you know, they're taking a chance of not getting in trouble selling it, I guess. But yeah, the legitimate, like if you go to like big retail websites for supplements, all that stuff is gone. It's been gone for a long time.
Okay.
So. GH question, here we go. Can HGH be used for its fat burning results subcutaneous in any area of the body? For example, when used subcutaneous in your abs, fat is decreased. Could it be used the same way under your chin or other stubborn areas where fat accumulates? Thank you for your wealth of knowledge, Dr. Touliatos. GH for spot reduction, would that work?
Yeah, for spot reduction, because we have the theory of lipodystrophy, that's why we should rotate periumbilical, these spots. But I never thought of to the chin. I heard that they use it in the butt to get the striated glutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much GH would you have to use for that? My goodness.
I mean, for I use, but constantly.
Yeah. I mean, that's a large area, you know?
Yeah.
But you've heard anecdotal people have said that worked?
I don't know, but they have used it in order to... but also this spot reduction theory is gone when you use it intramuscularly, like in the delts or in the biceps or in the tris or in the delts or in the lats or in the quads, because it gets directly to the bloodstream and it's supposed to work faster than the subcutaneous. And into the muscle, I guess it's supposed the receptor theory that works specified locally, like the MGF or the IGF-1 that also can improve asymmetry flow. Therefore, I knew a guy who had torn his pec, and he was injecting MGF and IGF-1 into the muscle in order to enhance the growth, because it was disproportional with the other pec.
Yeah.
But steroids do not have this effect. The steroids, we have the steroid receptors, but the anabolic steroids work through the bloodstream to all the receptors of the body. So some people were injecting to the delts and supposed to have larger delts. No, it looks like because of the oil. Yeah. But the next day, this is gone. But I guess the growth factors, so growth hormone, IGF-1 and MGF, yes, they do work localized. And also insulin is better to be used not in the abdominal area, because insulin has also lipogenic effect. And also insulin is responsible for mental fat accumulation, and this is why the bubble gut. So if you want to use insulin, use it post-workout to the areas that you trained, for instance, to the quads, or to the delts, or to the traps, or to the biceps, to the tris, but not to the midsection, because I guess you're gonna make it worse, the bubble gut effect.
So you're saying after a workout, if you're going to use insulin, if you're putting it into the body part you just trained, you're going to get more growth?
No, you're going to avoid the nasty look.
You're just avoiding
midsection, in the midsection.
So it doesn't matter where you put it as long as you don't put it in your gut, in your belly.
I guess intramuscular is much better because you also avoid the lipogenic effect into the subcutaneous area.
Okay. But you did mention in passing the IGF-1 does seem to have a localized growth effect wherever you're injecting it?
I believe it can.
That's interesting. I need about a gallon for my tris. Let's hook it up. Okay. Final question.
They use synthol. You know, they use MCTs, injectable synthol.
Oh yeah, that's synthol. I'm not.
Which is cheating. This is cheating.
PMMA is much more realistic looking. Yeah. On a side note, you know this wellness division.
Sorry?
Wellness division for women that they're starting next year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe there's going to be a lot of injected butts, a lot of
like J-Lo does.
Yeah, fillers, PMM, whatever they're putting in there. I think we're going to see a lot of
super curve. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of enhanced glutes on these girls.
I prefer the the ass to the grass glutes.
Yeah, big bubble butts. I don't like bubble guts, but bubble butts on a woman, big time. All right. Last question today is about Deca. Doc, what's your opinion on the latest studies on Deca and its heart-damaging effects? It's supposed to be 10 times more damaging than testosterone, if I remember well. We can assume the same characteristics must also be found with NPP, the fast-acting nandrolone phenylpropionate. How could we safely use Deca or NPP, and at what dosage in order to be safe? So is that true, doctor? Is Deca that much more dangerous to the heart?
I have read, there's a certain study in Ergolog. There's also on Facebook this page. But ergolog.com, you're going to dig up the study that Deca is 10 times more dangerous to blood vessels than testosterone. Now, Deca is supposed to be given, medically prescribed, under osteopenia, osteoporosis, bone fractures, because it improves calcium reabsorption in renal tubules and therefore improves bone mineral density. All steroids are capable of doing this, including testosterone, but I guess Deca is better than that. And if you use Deca in the long term, you may develop calcium score, as I did when I was checked in 2014. However, calcium score is a better scenario than having an atheromatic plaque. Because the calcium deposit is not detached, it's stable, it's hard, unlike the soft atheromatic plaque that can be detached and occlude and form an embolism. Also, the good scenario for a calcium plaque and for the calcium score is it can be minimized by using K2 vitamin. So people have told that they were diagnosed with a calcium score, they were able to minimize this by using D3K2 supplementation with the combination, the combo. And this, of course, helps the calcium not to enter into the arterial lumen and develop the calcium score, but get rid of out of there and go straight directly to the bone. Now, Deca, yes. Personally, when I'm using Deca, and the reason I'm using Deca is because I found it in the drugstore. It's cheap. It's legitimate, okay? For me, as a doctor, I do not need a prescription.
Yeah.
And already I have 10 Decas in my shelf. Okay, it's not a large dose. It's just 50 milligrams.
Okay.
The 100 milligrams are gone. But how I'm using it? I'm using it as the protocol of my TRT. Therefore, I drop my Deca in an insulin syringe, and we have 50 milligrams in 1 ml. So I'm using 1/10 of it, 5 milligrams every day, as it was supposed to be oral.
Wow.
But in this way, you get 35 milligrams Deca in a week. This is nothing, of course, okay, compared to people who are using 10 times this, 350 milligrams. But even if you want to use a larger dose, you can use smaller dose, more frequent, that get not so harsh on the lipid panel, on the liver, and also E2, PRL, and DHT are not also getting sky high with one large dose once a week or twice a week. For instance, I was using 500 milligrams Deca twice a week, or 300 milligrams of Deca twice a week. This is a super large dose that will spike E2, PRL, DHT, or DHN actually, and will do more harm to the lipids, distortion, and to the liver enzymes. Therefore, more frequent and smaller doses will have the same impact as a smaller dose of testosterone, but will not crash SHBG, will not elevate super high E2, and you'll have steady levels.
So Deca comes in 50 milligram. It's 50 milligram per mil concentration where you get it in Greece?
Yes.
Why is it why so low?
Because this was the alternative. The other was 100 milligrams, but it was 20 years ago. But to my grandmother, we shoot 50 milligrams per week. Now it's the first year I'm using this protocol, and after a couple of weeks, I noticed that my liver enzymes were not high. Okay, somebody will say, what the heck? I mean, 100 milligrams are nothing. Yeah. Also, my lipid profile was not distorted, and my biggest concern was my hematocrit. Because even at 50 milligrams of Deca, in a few weeks, I'm going to notice an elevation. I'm very sensitive to my bone marrow. Yeah. Therefore, the main reason I'm trying to avoid is erythrocytosis by using this kind of protocol. Now, I suggest to this guy to use K2 vitamin. Okay? To use K2 vitamin. And Deca, yes, if it is supposed to be harming the cardiovascular system, is because of the calcium accumulation. Now, John Chrysler, was a doctor that passed away this year, supported that progestins, Deca and Tren, are harm to the cardiovascular system. Now, of course, Tren is is more potent drug than Deca, of course, and it's a derivative of Deca. Yeah. But frankly, Deca is among the few drugs, like also Equipose or Primo, that are not so nasty and bad on the system.
Right. Just getting back to that one thing he mentioned, would it matter whether you're using a long-acting Deca like Durabolin or the short-acting NPP, as far as the way your system handles it and the effects it has on your lipid profile,
yes,
your calcium?
The NPP, it's about the half-life that it gets rapidly to the system, it gets rid of the system also faster. You need 3 times a week, every other day. It's like the testosterone propionate, and the long-acting Deca, it starts working later, but it also gets rid of the system later. The problem with MPP is that in order to reach a higher dose, the problem with MPP is that the frequent use will later accumulate more milligrams. So you need at least 3 times a week instead of one per week. Therefore, you can minimal use 150 milligrams of MPP, unlike the 50 milligrams of andecaunate.
Yeah, it's more powerful because it gets absorbed much better, utilized better than you don't have. You
also need frequent, constantly used. Therefore, add more and more and more. That in the end of the week, you're gonna have more milligrams than using the long-term Deca.
Interesting. Okay.
But also, people want to realize effects much faster. Right. They're very anxious to start a cycle. They want to start working from the first week, so they're going to start the cycle with the MPP or the testosterone propionate.
Okay. So his question, as far as a dosage that's safe, I don't know if you can even answer that. I don't know if there is an answer.
Safe.
What's safe?
Okay. What is safe is the prescribed medical that works. That does not work with muscle growth purposes.
Yeah. There you have it, guys. Sorry.
Say that Primo works at 60 milligrams, Deca works also at 600 milligrams. The same for Equipose. Safe. Okay, safe is use 50 or 100 milligrams per week, but you're not going to notice something super special.
Yeah. So
side effects are time released and time dependent and dose dependent.
Gotcha.
But also effects also muscle growth effects work in a higher dose, but does not mean that more is better always.
Okay, cool. All right, well that has been episode 14. We're rolling right. That's 14 weeks we've been doing these. We're rolling right along through the summer. It is summer over there in Greece, right?
Yes, we have 30 degrees.
30 degrees, so that's Celsius. So that's probably like
85.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're not too far behind. Yeah, because I know like Australia is behind. Their winter is summer in the rest of the world, but Greece sounds like...
How about Vegas in September? How is it like?
Horrible.
Hot? It's hot?
Well, I mean, you're from Greece. Greece gets very hot as well, right?
But in September, in middle of September.
It's still, every time I've been there, it's been, 80s to 90s. September's starting to cool down. I went there in July for the USA Championships a few times, and it'd be like 100 degrees at 11 o'clock at night. It's horrible.
Shit.
Oh, yeah, I mean, some people...
It's like Middle East. Like Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, if you love the heat, that's great, but
I have heat intolerance, no.
I thought I was like in an oven when I was out there in July. Oof. But, okay. So, guys, we want to encourage you to please keep the questions coming. Leave them in the comments under the videos. We have great questions, but we're always looking for even better questions to challenge the doctor and get information out there that isn't out there yet. That's what we're doing. The doctor's here to help. And Dr. Touliatos, we appreciate it so much that you are this resource for all these people who have no one else to turn to. Because in the whole world, you can probably count on one hand the doctors who are willing to discuss these things with people who have the goals of bodybuilding and powerlifting and whatever. So thank you, doctor. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And again, people, the book is Steroids, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's on Amazon.com. Also available on GTOUL.com, doctor's website that also has a lot of other articles and information that he's accumulated for your benefit. So you definitely want to check that out if you want to educate yourself. And that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week with another episode of Ask Dr. Testosterone. Thanks for watching.